Hello and welcome once more to the Port Huron statement. Oh. Bink. 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 Welcome once more to the Port Huron statement. I'm your host, Roger Sheldon. I'm getting buzzed by the cops again. They are such tool bags. They're coming after me for dog at large from a year ago. Now this matter has already been dismissed. I mean, not dismissed at the court level, but the responding police officer had looked at the video and determined that it wasn't appropriate to press charges, and that was 8 months ago. And so it's interesting that now they've decided that they are going to press charges. It's like I wish I had recordings of those conversations. I mean, I do have proof that the conversations occurred, but, this is a highly corrupted local government that's enabled by the lack of press. One of the key things that people need to come to understand is that most newspapers and most television news outlets have been bought up by a couple of different entities, most notably Sinclair and Gannett. And they've, in the case of Gannett, moved almost all writing and production work to a, remote location. In the case of Michigan, pretty much every single townie newspaper, in the case of here, it's the Times-Herald, it's produced in Lansing. That isn't even the worst part, even though that's pretty bad, because that guarantees that there's a massive disconnect between what's actually going on here and what's written in the paper. But then the thing is though people get the impression that there is a functioning local press, and so there's no vacuum for it, and so there's also this trick to that. You think that people are actually reporting on what's going on, but they aren't. They're not even here. Beyond that, Gannett is the publisher of USA Today, and pretty much the Times-Herald is a USA Today stripped down and throw in a couple of fluff pieces about the state and about the area that it's reporting on, and then a shit ton of political bullshit. I mean, the reason Gannett purchased all these local papers is in order to indoctrinate and manipulate the populations for political reasons. Gannett is highly associated with what you'd call a neocon like agenda. So the Republicans, but not the modern Trumper Republicans, although they have definitely jumped on that bandwagon. It's just, a bunch of super wealthy people that get huge advantages by Republicans being in office, mostly, tax advantage. Alright, more technical difficulties. I'm not in nothing close to an ideal situation, but soon. My goal is to be realistic, to have a solid permanent studio by the beginning of the year. I think I should be able to do it before then, but because of all the other things going on in my life, it's a good timetable, so I don't get overly stressed. Plus, I have most of the things I need. I just need to be in a situation where I can be permanent in a place and set it up. Should be soon. But anyway, what I want to talk about right now actually is some interesting phenomena, again, associated with professional sports. And I'm talking about Tua's concussion. And Tua said something, but then that is, we'll start with this. So Tua gets a concussion, it's his third concussion. A lot of people are like, oh, we want you to be safe. We don't want any of these terrible things happening. These are people that he doesn't know personally, And you're the Coast Guard or the Air National Guard. He says, it's a risk, possibility that I may suffer consequences, blah, blah, blah. I'm not experiencing them right now. And, you take a risk driving every day, all these different things, which is very true. But the other thing is like, all these people that have concerns for Tua, the worst case scenario for Tua is he gets CME in 20, 30, 40 years. Which is actually not, 3 concussions, I've had a lot more than 3 concussions. I have no danger of CME. There's a lot of things that have to sort of happen for that. Anyway, but, his worst case scenarios are substantially better than innumerable people that I know, and like, whether he quits football or he doesn't, his outcomes are all substantially better than the average Americans, and like the risk that he subjects his body to in being a professional athlete is substantially less than the wear and tear and long-term damage that you'll see from most assembly line workers, construction workers. The risk is higher in all these other industries or jobs. The pay is much lower. Certainly if you do suffer an injury or a long-term disabling event, you're not going to be taken care of in anything close to the way that you will be as a former professional athlete. And so I guess Tua is right, absolutely. He should keep playing football. The risks aren't really that high, and the pay is outstanding. And, the worst case scenario consequences aren't really that bad. He'd have to get several more concussions. And it was like, oh, the concussion was so bad you don't want to see it. And it's like, I watched it, I'm like, I've had at least 3 concussions that are way worse. And then, for real. And then, the other thing is, oh shit. Then you think to yourself, all right, so then they wrap these helmets with this soft shit, right, if you have a concussion. So, what's interesting to me about that is, like, the helmet is the most dangerous element of this sport, right? It's a super hard sphere that's coming at you, on top of a person. Like, so if the hard fucking isn't good for the wearer's head, it's certainly not good for anyone else's. So, like, why are they wearing helmets that are essentially weapons if ultimately they are not the best protection for your head? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if a soft overliner is preferable, why the fuck don't they all just have soft helmets or soft exterior helmets? Because it would greatly reduce their number of injuries associated with contact with the helmet. So, like, and then you go back to, like, these leather helmets, and rugby, all these other sports, they don't have hard helmets, they don't have helmets at all. Like, the helmet creates so many injuries because it's so hard. Now, protecting your head, I believe in 100,000%, and I played hockey forever, and there was a point where there was a real potential that I could have maybe played professional hockey, but I had always in my head, I'm going to wear a mask no matter what. There is no fucking logical reason not to protect your face in hockey. One, the high stickings. It allows you to just focus on playing the game rather than focus on protecting your face. Whatever. I know that the thing is breathing obstruction with the plastic shield, and then it's visual obstruction with the cage, and then also it's visual obstruction with the shield because of fogging. It's just go with the cage. At least when I was playing, that was the best solution. Ultimately, either the shield top, cage bottom, so that the plastic shit doesn't obstruct the fucking breathing and fog the mask. The point is like, there has to be a material science solution superior to just wrapping these helmets with soft shit after they get concussions. It's just like, why aren't they all just a softer interior? It would decrease the likelihood of concussions clearly, but it would also greatly reduce the number of other helmet contact injuries. And I know how much we love the quarterbacks. How many of their hands get fucked up because of, these hard helmets and stuff? I mean, just, that's not a major, but it's a thing. It just blows my mind that, okay, if this is preferable post-concussion, so it's protecting your head in a superior fashion, why isn't it in all helmets? Especially considering that if it's a softer exterior, it's going to reduce the injuries across the board, not just the head ones. So, I don't know why I keep going into sports. Oh, yeah, because then that goes to the other thing. Tua loves the game, I love it to death and everything. How many of these players that love the game to death would love the game to death if there weren't millions of people watching and cheering and knowing their name because of it, and they weren't getting millions of dollars associated with it? Like, it can't be just for the love of the game. It's for the love of the game in a professional atmosphere. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think it's important to be real that I don't doubt that Tua loves football. Absolutely. But if he wasn't getting paid to do it, there are just no 20 plus football leagues out there. So would he be playing it? The answer is almost certainly no. But that doesn't, I'm not discounting anyone's love of the game. I'm just merely pointing out that professional sports are more than just playing a game, even though they are just playing a game. And it's more than just a job playing a game. It's more than just a highly paid job playing a game. I mean, there's a high degree of influence, and really the entire economy is shifting towards bread and circuses almost. This is a very bad sign. But the biggest growth industries are media associated with sports, and really the primary export of the United States is just media. And if we really should become multilingual as a nation, because we're going to have to start exporting more media, and it would be good if we could, export it more broadly. But the whole thing is our education system isn't intended to actually improve your economic outlook, even though they kind of mold it as that now. And it's not what it once was, which was to purely educate. Now it is, most education is occupational training, whether broad or specific, and it's occupational training that's intentionally meant to be limiting so as to maintain the perpetual class hierarchy, or to maintain in perpetuity the current class hierarchy. That's so the entire education system really is underserving a vast majority of the population and making them vulnerable to really to just continuing to advantage the super wealthy and disadvantage themselves. the education currently just makes people incredibly vulnerable. I mean, I can't believe the lack of awareness, and it seems intentioned, to create holes in people's educational past, especially those, like, you pull out like 1984 and Brave New World, and you pull out, I'm trying to think about my education, K through 12. You pull out political science stuff and American history stuff, and you replace those with the, instead of the Howard Zinn, any version of that, instead of the reality, replace it with the, drum beating, fantasy revisionist, patriotic BS, which is, there is a huge difference in how people are educated based on class, and I've been a little bit ignorant to, well, I mean, I volunteered a lot at Detroit Public Schools, and so I knew that a lot of poor people were being wildly underserved, and I didn't grow up wealthy, but one day we'll go into it, but yeah, I did get really pretty good education, and a lot of that was related to my standardized test scores and such, but I was very blessed that not only to be born with a high degree of intellectual acuity or whatever, naturally, that it was sort of fostered by a decent school system. Now, I'll say, though, that it could have been a lot better, but the thing is I didn't realize how much worse it could have been. Yeah, so, you pull out, pull out Trail of Tears, right? And even though that wasn't a major part of my education about American history, that was definitely included, and, pull out the cotton gin from the Civil War story, really even pull out all criticisms of Christianity and pull out all awareness of other religions. I had a world religion class that I got to take in high school, and I had half of all my classes were independent study classes, so classes that I got to define for myself. And then I had calculus and AP Chem and stuff, so it was a good general education. It was actually an outstanding K through 12 education. The more I loved to criticize it when I was in those schools, and actually none of my criticisms were unfounded at all. In retrospect, I was right, but what I was wrong about is I wasn't, you see the forest for the trees thing. I wasn't able to see so much the positive of it, because whenever I would see the positive of it, it always just seemed like, there's always some negative side, we had these dark rooms, a lot of photographic equipment, a lot of creative and arts equipment, but that was largely related to grants and donations from private wealthy individuals, and that's a consistent theme. It's and they were great teachers too. That I underappreciated. I guess I was consistently coming to the conclusion that the reason that the education was good was merely because we had wealthy students, parents, and grandparents financially assuring that. And maybe if the administration, specifically the principal, was better, and you have to understand too, I had a independent study with the principal for 2 of the years, and got to know him to be, an idiot, and so that got to see how poorly a lot of the money was actually being spent too. I was also the treasurer of the class, and then the class was doing financially outstanding, and just seeing the waste that it's he's supposed to be giving me an example, but it's like the opposite, continually giving him advice. And then he ended up failing me because I wouldn't participate in these music videos that he wanted me to produce for him. Mostly because the music, it was off-putting, and in a, like, it was just, I did not want to make that music video. I felt like it was it would have compromised my artistic integrity to be a part of that. But I found him people to do it, and then when we got our presidential blue ribbon, they wanted me to make the video for that. They gave me an impossible deadline and all this shit, and so I made it spoofy. It was funny. It fit their criteria, but it was definitely, well, that's why I failed my independent study video production with Principal Barry for my senior year. Yep. Wow, that was a tangent that was unnecessary. What the there was something I really get on with this. Yeah. It's just have some awareness, I guess, everyone in the world, of like how much the external factors, how much influence your internal factors. Like, it's not wrong to love playing professional football, but just be aware, of the influence of the money, the fame, and all. Like, there's nothing wrong either with enjoying that part of the game, but just be aware of it, and be aware of the responsibility that comes with it. And I don't know, well, I guess the reason why I keep bringing up the sports business and sport and athletes is because that's really the greatest opportunity and best growth industry, legally accessible to someone that's not wildly wealthy already. So framing this as though my audience were professional athletes isn't insane. It's in fact, I feel as though the best audience that I can acquire would be professional athletes, because most of them have the experience of either American born. More and more it's getting upper middle classy, but still not upper class unless you're the son of a professional athlete. And then that's a whole other thing, because professional athlete upper class is different than donor class upper class. But the point is, especially from other countries, there's an awareness of the reality of what's going on in terms of exploitation and class hierarchy. And so with the agency that the professional athletes have, if one of them or even a couple of them were to realize their agency and embrace the good that they could do, a relatively modest investment of time and effort and money, or you know what I mean, could do so much good, and yeah. So because sports are being exploited so remarkably well as a distraction, a social distraction, and also as the lottery, the social lottery, as an aspirational object to justify this status quo. Like, there has to be social mobility, socioeconomic mobility to justify this capitalism. And so it primarily exists in the form of professional sports now, because professional entertainer is, collapsing, at least in musical. And really, Los Angeles is all but completely cornered the market on long-form video content. So, this is the best thing that we can do if we're not in LA, across the entire country. you know. You have to be likable and all this. And that's the other thing, too, is there's like a formula to this, which I'm obviously completely betraying. But I guess that's the point, is because the internet is so vast, I should be able to amass an audience through, just authenticity and force of will, and my natural personality has... I guess gravitas or something. The fact is what I'm trying to do here is to actually benefit the greater society, and there are a ton of ways in which that can be realized, and I guess I can't personally do all these things. I can't even do a fraction of them, and so at this juncture it seems like the best thing for me to do is to try and just voice what's going on in terms of what I'm seeing that's wrong locally, nationally, etc., and then develop solutions, but I need, dedicated personnel. So the first thing I need to do is I need to establish my personality, my character, and create a log back catalog of content which affirms and develops that to an audience, so that I can then inform them so that they become aware of what specific injustices and topics that can be acted on, and then call to action and all that stuff. So then essentially providing a solution. So and then there's a constant wheel here too, because I do have a lot of notebooks that have identified specific and broad problems and ways that they could be addressed, because the notion that these things can't be fixed is the most damning of all the fallacies. Obviously, all authority can only be justified by if its effectiveness in providing the population with stability and prosperity, ideally in harmony with the ecosystem and the global community. That seems like a mouthful, but that is a good definition for like governmental leadership, and if you're not satisfying that, you should be replaced, and you need to be replaced. And what we're in is a situation where all authority, bureaucratic, governmental, and even private, all of it is unjustifiably placed. There's so much nepotism and cronyism. But beyond that, there is this narcissistic overtone. All of this is directed indoctrinating the masses into the belief that wealth directly translates into value as a person, is advantageous to the wealthy. It's also not that unnatural in a capitalism as religion society like we have. So no one ever talks about this, but capitalism is predicated on a meritocratic basis, in the sense that capitalism works, it does work, if the money is paid in where I'm at. Let's just start over with that. So, capitalism can work if the money is meritocratic, and that people are paid based on their contribution to the greater society. Now, the problem with that is, if individuals become too powerful, because it is capitalism, essentially your agency is directly related to your capital, then they can completely distort all of the legitimacy of the remainders of the, estates of capitalism. Essentially, and the key one is press, the fourth estate, like the idea that our representative democracy really only works if the population is well informed as to the truth of what the government's doing and what's going on at every level. Because if you don't know what's going on, you can't be an informed voter. So the idea is if you become very wealthy, you can go from controlling industry to then controlling press and industry, and then controlling press, industry, and politics,